Red Bull have been on the defensive since the FIA revealed that they committed a minor breach of the 2021 cost cap. The problem for Red Bull is that their minor breach could have been enough to buy a brand new Formula 1 car. The team has no plan on dying lying down and are preparing their defense as we speak. But how are they going to get themselves out of this hole? And what happens if the hole they've dug collapses around them? On Monday the 10th of October, the FIA confirmed every Formula 1 fan's worst fears. Red Bull had breached the 2021 cost cap. Okay, maybe it wasn't every fan's fear, but no reasonable F1 fan wanted to see this happen. Before you even begin considering the implications and potential punishments for Red Bull, this is obviously bad for Formula 1. In a sport that thrives off letting people push the rules to breaking point, this was one rule that wasn't meant to be broken. The cost cap was meant to be the competitive savior of a sport that has become increasingly polarized. In 2020, Mercedes spent around $500 million running their team. Williams and Haas spent less than $100,000. That isn't competition. The budget cap is meant to make Formula 1 a racing competition again. Red Bull breaching the cap has completely invalidated that though. It would be easy to strip Red Bull and march them through the streets shouting shame, but until we hear more from the FIA, it is impossible to know if they've actually done anything wrong. As much as Twitter thinks every F1 team that has ever done anything wrong is cheating and needs banning from the sport, that just isn't true. There is a very real possibility that Red Bull genuinely thought they were within the cap. Red Bull has responded to the FIA's findings into the auditing of Formula 1 teams' finances for the 2021 season, saying they are surprised with the outcome. The team believes that they are below the cost cap limit and that the relevant costs are under the 2021 cost cap amount. The statement released by the teams reads, "We note the findings by the FIA of minor overspend breaches of the financial regulations, with surprise and disappointment. Our 2021 submission was below the cost cap limit, so we need to carefully review the FIA's findings as our belief remains that the relevant costs are under the 2021 cost cap amount." With speculation rife for the last few weekends over whether the team did breach the cost cap, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner threatened legal action due to the defamatory statements made in relation to the team. In the statement, they doubled down on the conjecture and positioning of others and vowed to follow the FIA procedure. Despite the conjecture and positioning of others, there is of course a process under the regulations with the FIA, which we will respectfully follow while we consider all options available to us. Since the FIA announced that Red Bull hadn't been within the cap, the team have had a few days to review the FIA's findings. The cost cap process is a discussion, and it may be that Red Bull managed to convince the FIA of their innocence yet. Helmut Marko gave a statement to F1 Insider after the breach had been announced that shed some light on the situation. "We still believe that we didn't break the cost cap rule at all. Discussions with the FIA are ongoing. Let's see what finally comes out of it." The FIA interprets some items differently than Red Bull. For example, it is about salaries in case of illness, which is being discussed. If it is sickness salaries that Red Bull and the FIA are arguing over, then Red Bull might have a legitimate defense. The cost cap rules are freely available online for anyone to read. The 46-page document isn't going to top any bestseller lists anytime soon, but that doesn't mean it isn't worth a read. Section 3.1, Part U, V, and W are particularly important to Red Bull's argument. If the FIA are saying that Red Bull are over because they excluded sick leave from their submission, then the FIA are wrong, because according to their own rules, sick leave is an exception from the budget cap, as is the cost of the person that covers them while they are away. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was decided by an FIA employee not fully understanding the governing body's own rules. That same mistake could definitely have been made again, which would be a massive embarrassment to the FIA. With the 2021 season being heavily affected by COVID-19, you can easily imagine that the cost of sick leave for employees would total hundreds of thousands of dollars. Could Red Bull have had so many sick employees that they broke the budget cap? I'll let you decide that one. What about the potential punishment Red Bull will receive? Marko commented on that as well. The rules surrounding the budget cap state that the FIA could also deduct points from the Constructors and Drivers' Championships as punishment, theoretically threatening Verstappen's 2021 Drivers' title. However, Verstappen's fans need not worry about that, according to Marko. Rumours that Max could lose his world title in 2021, for example, are complete nonsense. The past has shown that even extreme violations of the regulations were punished very mildly by the FIA. There are plenty of examples of the FIA giving mild punishments when people were expecting them to come down much harder. After Crashgate in 2008, Fernando Alonso's race win was never voided, despite him winning the race because his teammate purposefully crashed to help him do so. His defense was that he knew nothing about it at the time. Max could very easily make the same defense. Do you really think he keeps up to date with the exact spending of the team? We definitely don't. In 2013, Mercedes conducted a secret test with Pirelli and was only banned for one young driver's test for it. However, the German team appeared to fully understand the tyres after that test and benefited considerably later on. Being banned from one young driver test isn't really a punishment. It's just an extra day off for most of the team. Most of the Mercedes team probably celebrated upon receiving the news their holidays were starting early. In 2019, there was a scandal surrounding Ferrari and its incredibly powerful engine. After an investigation by the FIA, Ferrari mysteriously lost all of its power but were never punished for anything. Secret deals behind closed doors is the way the FIA works, and that is definitely what could happen here. The FIA don't want to overturn a championship that finished 10 months ago. The press would have a field day, the sport would look a sham, and the FIA would be viewed as a joke, unable to police its own sport. Helmut Marko isn't ever a reliable source for anything, but his point about the FIA is correct. They don't like to come down hard on teams or drivers. They would prefer to issue fines. It isn't bribery to force someone to pay you a bribe, it is just blackmail. The likeliest outcome of this is that Red Bull will get fined just enough to cover the FIA's top bosses' bonuses. While the speculation around the situation continues to spiral out of control, some interesting quotes have resurfaced from Christian Horner. He warned back in 2020 that whatever limit is set out in a budget cap, teams will always spend an extra 10%. Writing in a column for Red Bull in May 2020, the final year that the teams were free to spend whatever they had, the team boss said, "Money is a hot topic among F1 teams right now. The problem is so much is made about the figure of the cost cap that I believe it is missing the point. F1 teams will always spend whatever budget they have available to them, plus an extra 10%. You could spend a whole evening in the pub arguing over the exact meaning of his words, but I'll give you my interpretation and then you can call me all the names you want in the comments section. I think he's referring to the fact that Formula 1 teams will always try to push the rules and interpret them in such a way that suits them the most. It happens every year with the design rules. Why would it not happen with the cost cap rules as well? Think about something like DAS, for example. Mercedes found a system that helped them go faster. It was technically within the rules, but clearly it wasn't the intention of the rules. They weren't punished for finding it, but the loophole that allowed it was closed. We see it happen almost every year. In fact, this year it happened with the flexible floor that Ferrari employed. They weren't punished for using it, the rules were just changed to stop them using it in the future. The cost cap was never meant to have the same flexibility that the technical regulations do, but that is the likeliest outcome in this case. Red Bull have found something that is legal, but not in the spirit of the regulations. Just like the Ferrari flexi floor from this season. Will the FIA treat the financial regulations the same way they do the technical regulations and close the loophole for the future? Or will they do the right thing and stamp out any future attempts at stretching the regulations by hitting Red Bull with a huge public punishment? We'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Want to know more about what is going on in F1? Then click the link on your screen and I'll see you there.